Have you ever woken up one day and realized you've been living your life for everyone else but yourself? That's exactly where I found myself, standing in front of a mirror I had avoided for years. The silence in my room was deafening. No ticking clock, no distant traffic, just the hollow echo of my own heartbeat. In that stillness, I couldn't hide anymore. My reflection asked me a question I couldn't escape. When did you stop recognizing your own voice? This was the moment my journey toward true self-compassion began. I saw the shadows of past pain, the weight of unspoken dreams, and the quiet rebellion I had buried deep. The air felt heavy, but also ripe with possibility. Like the calm before a storm, I started small because that's the only way to begin when everything feels broken. I took a walk in the rain without an umbrella, not to punish myself, but to feel something real. The cold drops on my skin were a wake-up call, each one whispering, "You are still here." I remember stopping under a street lamp, the light reflecting on the wet pavement like a mirror of the sky. I didn't know it then, but I was learning to listen to the world again, and through it to myself. That night, I wrote my first honest word in years. I deserved to be me. It wasn't a victory, it was a crack in the armor I'd built, and cracks let in light. Weeks passed and the old habits knocked on my door like unwelcome guests. The voice in my head said, "You're not good enough, you'll never change." One morning I woke up feeling hollow, and I almost believed it again. But then I remembered the rain, that cold truth on my skin, and I chose to fight. I went to my kitchen, made a cup of tea, and sat on the floor. I didn't check my phone. I just sat with the ache. I placed my hand on my chest and felt my heartbeat. For the first time, I didn't push the feeling away. I said out loud, "I see you. I hear you, and I'm sorry I ignored you for so long." It was a clumsy prayer, but it was honest. And honesty, I learned, is the birthplace of strength. There came a day when I decided to paint a room in my apartment a bold, warm yellow. I chose it because it scared me. It felt too bright, too alive for someone who had felt so dim. As I rolled the paint on the walls, I realized I was covering up the gray I had lived in, one brushstroke at a time. The light now bounced off those walls in the morning, and I started waking up with a different energy. I rearranged my furniture to face the window. I let the sun hit my face. I bought flowers and placed them on my desk. These weren't grand gestures, they were tiny acts of rebellion against the idea that I didn't deserve beauty. Each choice was a root growing deeper, anchoring me in a newfound self-respect. But true reconciliation isn't just about painting walls or walking in rain. It's about forgiving the version of you that didn't know better. I sat down with an old journal one from a year when I was at my lowest. The words in it were sharp and sad. I read them aloud and I didn't flinch. I let my voice shake and I let the tears come. Then I said, "That was you then, and you did what you could. I am you now, and I am here to help." In that moment, the past lost its power over me. I wasn't running from it anymore. I was holding its hand. The weight I'd carried for so long began to thin, like morning fog dissolving into light. I felt a rhythm settle in my chest, steady, strong, patient. Now I still have bad days. The mirror sometimes shows me someone tired, someone uncertain. But I don't look away anymore. I lean in, I ask, "What do you need today?" And I listen. I've learned that self-compassion is not a destination, it's a practice. A muscle that grows stronger each time I choose kindness over criticism. The storm I once feared didn't destroy me. It watered the seeds I never knew I had planted. And now, in my own voice, I hear a quiet power. It doesn't shout. It doesn't need to. It just says, "I am enough." And I finally believe it. I started to listen, not to the noise outside, but to the whispers within. Each day I carved out a few minutes of sacred time where the only sound was my own breathing. I remembered the first time I said no without apologizing. It felt like breaking a chain that had held me back for decades. Then came the second core insight, embracing imperfection. I let myself stumble, cry, and laugh at my own failures. The third truth was honoring my emotions, letting anger, sadness, and joy flow through me without judgment. I recalled a rainy afternoon when I finally wrote down all the shoulds that haunted me and burned them one by one, watching the flames dance like a ritual of release. It didn't happen overnight. The journey of reconciling with yourself is slow, like a river carving a canyon. There were mornings when I woke up and still felt the weight of old expectations like a ghost sitting on my chest. But I learned to greet that ghost with kindness. I'd whisper to myself, "I see you, but you don't control me anymore." And little by little, the ghost grew lighter. I started replacing words like "I have to" with "I choose to." That shift alone sent ripples through my entire existence. I began to notice the small moments of grace, the warmth of sunlight through a window, the way my hands could create something beautiful, the sound of my own laughter echoing in an empty room. I found strength in vulnerability, not in armor. I started forgiving myself for the years I spent trying to be someone else. I realized that every misstep, every detour had led me here, to this very moment of profound understanding. And then came the breakthrough. One evening, standing alone in my kitchen, I felt a surge of energy rise from my core. It wasn't loud or dramatic, it was quiet and certain. I looked at my reflection in the dark window and saw a person who was enough, not perfect, but complete in their imperfections. I smiled, and for the first time, I didn't need anyone to validate that smile. The approval I had always sought from others was now a gift I gave myself. From that point, life began to shift. Opportunities appeared that I had once been too afraid to pursue. Relationships deepened because I showed up as my real self, not a polished version. I learned that true power isn't about controlling everything around you. It is about embracing what is within. Every day I choose to wake up and walk forward, not as a person who has it all figured out, but as a person who trusts the process. And in that trust, I have found not just peace, but an unshakable strength that has always been mine, waiting to be reclaimed. There is a moment that comes for all of us, a quiet, uninvited knock on the door of our soul. It happened for me in the middle of an ordinary Tuesday. I was staring into the bathroom mirror, the fluorescent light unforgiving against the gray morning, and for the first time in years, I didn't look away. I looked into my own eyes, and what I saw wasn't a stranger, but a tired, familiar friend. That is the day the silence began, not the silence of loneliness, but the silence of a long overdue conversation. The first step toward true reconciliation is the willingness to stop running. You have to turn around, face the person you've been avoiding yourself, and in that stillness you start to listen. The voice I found was fragile at first, like a radio signal from a distant city. It had been drowned out by the noise of expectations, by the static of regret. I sat on the edge of my bed and I let that voice speak. It told me about the dreams I had buried, the wounds I had plastered over, the small acts of unkindness I had shown myself for years. I didn't interrupt. I didn't defend myself for once. I simply listened, and the most remarkable thing happened. The voice didn't accuse me. It asked for my permission to heal. It said, "I am not your enemy. I am not your shame. I am the truth you've been looking for." Forgiveness isn't an event. It is a decision you make again and again, a hand you keep reaching out to hold your own. The journey inward is not a straight path. It took me to the dusty corners of my memory, to the childhood room where I learned to hide pieces of myself to feel safe. I wandered through the hallways of past failures, letting the doors swing open of their own accord. I saw the moments I had labeled mistakes, not as tragedies, but as lessons written in my own handwriting. It was there, among the shadows of who I used to be, that I found the treasure. a small glowing ember I had mistaken for a cinder. It was my own resilience. It had been there all along,